And we are back. So, for those of you watching and for those of you listening, welcome to the second episode of the Storyteller Series of the podcast. As some of you who follow me on social media may have seen, a few weeks ago I was in Costa Rica giving a retreat, and the most unlikely of encounters happened, where I got picked up from the airport by the retreat owner, one of the retreat owners, who brought me to the retreat. I got to the retreat, and as some students had arrived for our week together, and there was a guy there who was not part of our group, but who I saw was sort of just chilling around, walking around, sitting around, hanging out. And I, made it a point to say hi to him and to let him know, look, we're going to be doing this opening circle in a few hours. If you want to join us, you're more than welcome. There will be a meditation class. And we chatted for a bit. And after that, I went to go to the ocean. I came back, I got into the pool. And as I'm coming out of the pool, this guy who's sitting in a chair right in front of me says, "Are you ready for your portrait?" And I said, "Okay, sure." And we went for a very short walk down to the banyan tree, which was literally a very short walk from where we were. And as we talked, he told me, who he was, what he does. Robert Sturman is a world-renowned photographer. He's got over 25 years experience, a man who uses his camera to capture the humanity that binds all of his subjects and all of us together. Robert has made it his mission to photograph yogis and yoginis around the world in all different settings and contexts, including inmates in prisons around the world whose journeys have led them to mindfulness, to yoga, to meditation. He has photographed active military in their practice and has an eye for the exquisite beauty that he finds within all of us, within all beings, within all things. He is an avid animal rights advocate, constantly raising awareness and advocating to end animal testing, and is accompanied in life by the most beautiful beagle named Otis, who is an animal testing survivor, who was lucky enough to find his forever human in today's guest. So, Robert Sturman, welcome to the podcast. It is a pleasure. It is an honor. What a serendipitous chance meeting that we had a few weeks ago.
The honor is mine, and I need to make one correction.
Please.
Otis is a coonhound. He was rescued rescued by a beagle organization, but he's a gigantic beagle. He's about 90 pounds, and he's four beagles in one.
He is the most beautiful. He really is.
Thank you.
I watched in prepping for the interview, I watched your TEDx talk, and that last bit where you talked about perspective, photographing from above, photographing at the same level,
right?
And what a difference that makes. The photograph of Otis from above, the eyes just like broke my heart open. Unbelievable. Such a beautiful, beautiful animal.
Thank you. Yeah, he's quite phenomenal, and I always wanted to somehow do something for animals because it just felt so close to my heart, but I never could figure out how I could really use my craft to raise awareness, raise money, just somehow be part of it like I can do with photographing in prisons or with the military. But so when this dog showed up in my life, it was the perfect excuse to be able to raise awareness. And then just those simple things like inspiring people to choose cruelty-free products, like products that have the rabbit on the back that have not been tested on animals. So simple things like that. We try to get that message across.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And what really touched me about meeting you was that immediately what I got off of you was this energy of compassion, of a very sort of, it was almost like a low hum of just kindness and compassion. You emanate it. And it was very clear to me from our meeting that that is who you were. And then you told me really what you do in the world, and everything sort of clicked into place because I had heard of you, but did not put two and two together until you told me about, who you were, what you did. So it's no surprise that this is one of the things that you do in the world. Um, would you be willing to share with listeners, with viewers, how you fell into photography? Because there are so many people who have this as a passion and it stays a hobby. It doesn't become a career.
I just want to say that it's neat to see you with all this clothes on and looking so sharp right now. After only seeing you in a pink sarong by the banyan tree.
I mean, listen, different settings, different outfits.
Okay, back to your question. I believe you asked how I began my journey as a photographer.
Yes.
I grew up in the 70s, so everybody was really into photography and 1 hour photo and all that. And my father bought me a camera when I was 14, and he was taking me to boarding school, and handed me the camera when we got there. And that's how I started. One of the things that he actually said to me when I asked him what I was supposed to make photographs of, he just really, not really in a very present, wise thinking way. I don't believe he said this, but he said something that I would carry with me all my life. He said, I don't know, anything that you love. And that really ended up being, I would say, the most valuable piece of advice I've ever received as an artist, to tell you the truth. And from there, it just began. As you know, growing up has a lot of stages, and this was my best friend through growing up and trying to make sense of the world, was clinging to finding meaning through the camera and through the arts. And I was not good at it. I struggled a lot. I was very clumsy at it, and I did not do nice work for many years. Once in a while, I would get lucky, and then I learned how to control that luck so that it became habit, and I could solve the puzzles to make decent photographs. But there was a lot of struggle involved in it. And I think that the seed of everything really has been the heart. That's been the guiding force with everything that kept me going. And for many years, it was from a place of desperation, like just so badly wanting to feel okay or wanting to feel something, that I tried so hard and I learned so much and I studied the masters, and a lot of it came from a desperation, which ultimately guided me to yoga, because I had this idea that the yoga people were these really calm human beings that could handle any situation. And so I wanted some of that in my life. And so that, because I wanted to rewrite the story of what it meant to be an artist. And I knew I needed something there to be able to support rewriting that story and finding healing. I mean, especially because so many of my heroes in the history of art lived lives of self-destruction. Many of them even killed themselves. So I wanted to change that story of destructive behavior.
Did you think that you were on a path that could have gone there had you not been steering it in specific directions?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I think that, I mean, I never really got that far, but I had people in my life that were on very destructive paths. And I think that, but it didn't even have to be the most dramatic life of self-destruction, just not loving yourself and having respect. I mean, it could be very slight, but I was definitely on a path of just not knowing how to I wasn't very good at life. Life is hard.
Life is hard, and I think that most people can relate to that,
Yeah.
you know. And so you started to explore the world through the lens of the camera. Did you find that a lot of your own, the things that maybe you were unconsciously or consciously imposing on yourself were getting in the way in terms of asking people to take their photo, or, you know, having to be seen as a photographer? Did any of that stand in your way, or did all of that come naturally to you?
It came pretty naturally, actually. I was very good at asking people to be in pictures when I was in high school. I did a whole series in downtown Los Angeles with, I mean, I think they were, looking at the pictures now, I would say quite a few addicts, and I just went down there and worked. That always came easy to me. But now I don't so much do that anymore. I'm not a street photographer anymore. So just what comes naturally to me is meeting someone like yourself and just having so much, like for me, I have so much confidence that that my only purpose is to see your light and reflect it back. I mean, and it's so, it possesses me, and I feel, you know, I don't feel like I have to. It just emanates. I feel like, so it comes through my camera now, and I don't have to do too much convincing. And I think I learned a lot of it because when I started to go into the prisons, um, those guys can see right through you. So, and and as a photographer, I think that one of the things that a lot of we have a history of is people stealing, you know, taking pictures without caring about the subject. And when you can come from a place where you really like you really are just like there, like saying you're awesome,
Mm.
and I want to, and I'm just a little kid screaming about it. That's what an artist is. It's just somebody just say, "Hey, everyone, look at this! It's so cool."
And so it's flipping the script, really. It's not taking something, because I've heard that expression that the lens, the camera, even if it's video, sort of steals the soul.
Yeah.
You're flipping the script. This is you giving something. This is you reflecting something.
Well, it's the languaging that we use for photography that is complicated too, because you take a photograph and exactly what you're saying about the soul. So if you really think about it, rather than take a photograph of someone, I've tried, I've made a point of changing the way I speak it, but it also, because I don't even think of it that way, I make photographs with people.
Well, listen, you said to me, "Are you ready for your portrait?" There was a generosity there. There was no, "Can I take your photo?" And even, and I know that that is semantics to
Yeah,
some
yeah,
people, but
right.
but the energy with which that is conveyed is very different.
Yeah. Yeah, the cameras, for me, it'll never stop being a miracle. I
Mm.
studied painting for a few years because I thought it'd be the neatest thing in the world to be able to create from nothing, just out of my imagination. And it was so hard, but I got okay at it and developed those muscles. But because of those years of training myself to do that, the camera to me is now this magic box that it's just like, it does, I don't need to do that. It's all, the camera can do all that.
That's incredible. And so can you talk to me about the gravitation towards photographing people in their practice, whether it be yoga, whether it be meditation, and how that brought you to the prison system?
At first, when I first started to get into yoga around maybe 30s, I volunteered for a yoga magazine and would photograph a teacher once a month for their teacher profile, because I wanted to become more of a yogi. So I figured I should immerse myself in the culture. And so I did that for a while, but then I noticed that the yogis were some of the most beautiful subjects I had ever seen in the whole history of art. And I realized that I could tell this story of human beings reaching towards something greater. It's a story that artists have been telling throughout the ages. But none of this I wasn't aware of this at the time. I just thought I was pulled to it. And I was very much reminded of Picasso's series of acrobats on the Mediterranean, in the south of France. So I apologize for the noise in the background. I should have turned that off.
I can't even hear it.
Oh, this is great.
I don't think anybody can detect it. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. And then I just was invited by a warden. One of my closest friends is a psychologist, and he worked in the California prison system, and the warden really wanted to have her yoga program. She was pioneering yoga in the prison system, and she wanted it documented. And so I resisted for a long time to come into the prison, because I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, because I couldn't really see it yet. But then I went, and it was the most incredible thing I've ever had the opportunity to do, which really would open up the floodgates to working with a tremendous amount of outliers in our society. And
Was
then
there a part of No, please go ahead.
And then I realized that the camera was one of the more powerful tools for change that the world knows, for shifting perceptions. Because when I started to share these images, the public really responded tremendously to something they'd never seen before, and couldn't quite figure out at first if it was a good thing or a bad thing, because we were very early on in seeing, like, oh, something nice for people in prison. But I think we've evolved to the point where we know they're going to be our neighbors at some point, and rehabilitation is very important.
Did the outlier in you somehow find commonality by meeting these people and seeing their struggles?
I don't know about commonality. I haven't thought about that, but I know that I found fascination in it. Like, for instance, working with the military. The military is so far from anything I was ever raised around. And, I didn't know much about that kind of that culture. And when I became an insider with people who had served their country, that was just a remarkable experience to be around so many different people that are some people so highly intelligent, and just the jobs that they would do, and their fathers were in the military. And so I think that it's part of just being very curious about the diversity of our planet.
And can you talk to me about that curiosity? Because I find curiosity is essential. In my experience and with the people who I work with, curiosity is key, because where there is curiosity, typically that means that there is a reduction in emotional overwhelm.
Yeah.
You know, when we can get into analysis, emotions don't necessarily direct us as much. Um, where does curiosity play into how you live your life, how you photograph subjects, who you choose to photograph?
I mean, first of all, I'll just say that you can't sit where you're sitting right now and be a podcaster if you're not
Mm.
filled with curiosity. Um, Curiosity is being interested, and not as concerned about being interesting. Just people that really are interested. And I mean, I just want to give you your props right now. I had a podcast for a second, probably about 20 episodes or so, and it was one of the harder things I've ever done.
Mm.
So congratulations to you.
Thank
And
you. I appreciate it.
it takes being interested, curious.
Listen, I'm definitely curious, but and I also have this driving force within me, and I don't really know why. And I do some work around it, but I don't question it too much. I have this driving force to connect people to concepts, or people to other people who I think, their energies need amplification. I like, I don't know, I like the idea of being able to bring something new and inspiring into the equation. I think there's a lot of doom and gloom and, stuff that's thrown at us that is meant to drag us down to lower frequency vibrations. I like to elevate the higher frequency vibrations, if that makes any sense.
It does. You're doing it. Thank you.
Well, listen, I mean, as I said, the second I met you, I recognized it. You
Thank,
know, you said very little, but there was a very high frequency vibration around you, and I thought, okay, this is interesting.
thank you. So I think your question was about me being interested in, what was it? Tell me again
Well,
before I.
where does curiosity fit into how you see the world, and how you choose subjects, and who you photograph, and where you go? Because I mean, the width and the breadth of what you have already done with a camera is massively impressive. You have been all over the world. You have photographed everyone from inmates to BB King. You have photographed, humanity. And I would imagine that curiosity plays into that somehow, but I don't want to assume.
That's a hard question, actually. Seems simple, but it's a hard question. Because I've never really analyzed it. I go where the energy is,
Mm.
and I don't know how long it's going to last for, but I mean, I keep coming back to prisons because that's where my main focus has been lately. And just the energy there to do this thorough body of work inside the prison system, like deep in federal prisons in Mexico. I just feel so privileged to have this opportunity to be able to do something that not anyone can just walk in with a camera to do. And I love holding my camera and whoever I'm with at the time is who is the most important person in the world. And there's something about that that is so intoxicating to me. And maybe that's all curiosity. I wish I was as good of a person in real life as I am with my camera.
You don't think you are?
I don't have that kind of curiosity and love for
Fair.
everything as you know, and in photography I also teach that, you know, if we just move a millimeter, the whole composition changes. So I rarely tell a model to move. Like it's so much easier for me to change my perspective just a tiny bit or even a lot but in real life, I just want to change the other person.
But I mean, listen, the teaching, I mean, that's a teaching.
Of course it is.
And
But I
you know,
realize
1 millimeters makes all the difference.
which I aspire to be as flexible and you know, of a human being as I am with the camera.
It's your yoga. It feels like it's your yoga.
It truly is.
I mean, you had said you know earlier you had said that you felt gravitated or a gravitation towards the yoga community because these were people who gave off the impression of, you know, being able to, and I'm paraphrasing what you said, but being able to deal, to be their best selves, to rise above, to find calm, to find quiet. Um, is that what you found when
Huh,
you?
you can't ask me that. You
I
know,
don't need you to. I don't need you to name names.
in conclusion, I, you know, I'm an artist, so I'm supposed to be off my rocker, but it was quite. I found that I'm a very healthy human being.
Well, very well said and diplomatically fielded. May I just say?
I saw a lot of. I mean, look, I came in with an illusion and made up a story that painted a story inside of myself that this was which it is, it can be, but also yoga, it drew me in because I had a lot of problems inside of myself, and I think that maybe that's very common.
Yes.
And I've met a lot of wonderful people that can have the tools to handle you know, colossal issues, and they do it with so much grace.
Mm.
I've met a lot of people that can do that. So that's really my answer with that. Of course, there's going to be wackos everywhere, you know,
Sure.
and we've had our share with a lot of male teachers that have been um, have been gotten in a lot of trouble over the years. So we've had our problems.
Yes. Yeah. Um, After having photographed so many different people in so many different countries in so many different contexts, demographic, you know, social, economic, is there a common thread that you can identify that you have taken from all of this, that you see a thread that binds us all together, regardless of details?
Well, it's exactly one of the common threads that I've discovered just by being a picture maker is that we all really want to be seen.
Mm.
And it all goes back to that question about curiosity and being interested. You know, it doesn't feel good to live in a world full of narcissists. It feels nice when somebody asks you questions, when somebody's curious about you and cares about your life. And the camera is an absolute tool for that. but so is the smile.
Mm.
So I just happen to be in a profession that is on steroids for paying attention.
Right.
And for reflecting light back at others. But there's this amazing story that inspired my photography career tremendously, and it was about all of the people that jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and survived. I read this story in the New Yorker a long time ago, and some people jumped off twice and survived, and they all regretted it the whole way down. Every single one of them that they interviewed. So then there was an incident, and the coroner was called to a home in an apartment in San Francisco. So the coroner went. It was a couple miles away, and it was a guy in his early 30s whose apartment it was. And there was a note on the entryway, and it said, "I'm walking to the bridge. If one person smiles at me, I won't jump."
Wow. That's powerful. That's
It
incredibly
truly
powerful.
is. That was, I feel like that was one of the more important lessons in photography that I ever received. How valuable it is to pay attention to others.
And listen, I can only speak from my experience with you having photographed me back in Costa Rica, but I felt like your direction, or your attention rather, was unilaterally directed towards me. You weren't distracted. The fact that I came out of the pool and you said, "Are you ready for your portrait?"
I don't even remember that. Oh, maybe
Yeah.
because Stuart and I were discussing it.
Oh, possibly. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, and in all fairness, I'm not necessarily fond of putting the image of this out into the world. I'm
Ah,
careful with that because
right.
I recognize that we live in an age of image and narcissism, and I want to be careful with that.
Yeah.
I was so fascinated by the fact that you just said, "Are you ready for your portrait?" And
Yeah.
I have learned, and it actually started at that place at Nereus Retreats a year ago, where I went for the first time with the group. It started there, and my lesson in going there last year was say yes to things. And so I saw it all as very sort of interconnected when I got out of the pool and you said that. And I was like, yes, I'm saying yes to this. I don't know
Yeah.
what it's going to be. Let's just go and see. Let's play.
Yeah.
Um, and I have to say that image that you shot of me is fascinating because I barely recognize myself in it, but I recognize sort of that people will recognize me in it, right? Because that's how we recognize each other,
Yeah.
is through the physicality. But what I do get from that photo is it's almost like I'm back there. All my senses, I can hear the sounds, I can feel the mulch underneath me, I can feel the tree, the heat, the humidity. Everything about it was magical. I really believe that you captured a moment in time in that photo. It's fascinating to me. So thank you. It was
Thank
it
you.
was it was the loveliest of surprises. Um, well, listen, to wrap up, is there, with all of this experience that you have, which is unique to you, all of our experiences, each one of us, we are one of us in all of time, as Martha Graham said, um, with the very unique experiences that you have under your belt, is there something that you feel is important to share with people? Something that maybe they can take with them?
I think that what you gather, the thing that I described in the TED Talk about, as a photographer, I follow a formula of being on people's level, whether they're shorter than me, they're a dog, a cat, and really never looking down on anyone. And seeing others with respect, because when we see others with respect, they feel seen. And we really do have a perfect opportunity in this day and age with this thing we call a cell phone that's really part of our skin now. And with incredible cameras inside of them, as far as the history of photography is concerned, the advancement is astronomical. So you have this excuse to pay attention to others and reflect back to them that they're worthy of being seen, that they're here. I mean, it's really simple. You know how it feels to be alienated, to be put off to the side, to be ignored, disrespected. And we just, it's this whole theme of this podcast today of being interested. And that's just part of, that's something that you can do so you don't even have to admit that you care. You just pretend to be a photographer. And then eventually, yeah.
I love it. I love it. Listen, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your insight and your energy with everybody. My reason really for asking you to do this was because I just wanted more people to get a feel for what I got when you and I met. And I was just, it's rare that I meet somebody and I feel that like something. I don't have a word for it. But I wanted just to amplify that. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you,
Thank you
Bram.
for sharing your experience. And listen, I'm not even going to say best of luck. I don't think you need luck. All I'll say is just keep doing what you're doing, because especially now it feels like humanity, the world just needs more of all of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Bram.
So for those of you who are watching, for those of you who are listening, I hope that you got something out of this, something you can take with you. And listen, stay tuned for more interviews for or in the Storyteller series as we continue with this format for the next little while. All right, take care, everybody. Be well.